Okay, now I'm going to again re-explain how a monopolistic competitive firm is making a normal profit. As you can see, first you should make sure to draw your MR curve, and when there is a normal profit, your average revenue should be equal to your average cost. Once you draw your MR curve, next you draw your AR curve above that, and then you mark a point on top of AR, and you draw your average cost curve from there, and then mark it AC. Now draw the marginal cost curve, which is cutting through the lowest point of AC. So this is your MC curve, and then you find out the point where MC equals MR, and you draw the dotted line all the way till it touches AR. And then you can find there is a dotted line moving there, and the second line that you draw is the point where your AC is equal to AR. Now let's see in your textbook how they had explained this concept. So you can see they have drawn this diagram over here, and you can observe here that they have drawn the MR curve, AR curve, marginal cost curve, and average cost curve. Did you start drawing the curve? Okay, now we're going to see how to find a normal profit for a monopolistic competitive firm. So first of all, make sure that you understand the rules. When it comes to normal profit, AR should be equal to AC, and MC should be equal to MR. So let's draw the MR curve first, followed by that the AR curve. And then I'm going to draw my average cost curve to make sure that I end up with getting the correct diagram. And then I mark the point where MR equals MC and draw the dotted line till it touches AR. Then I'm going to see the lowest point of my AC, which is tangent to AR curve, and I'm drawing the AC curve. So once I'm done with the AC curve, I can find out that the red curve AR is equal to AC. Therefore, I'm making sure that it's a normal profit. And then I mark the dotted line and find out this is the exact cost that I'm going to cost or revenue that I'm going to get. And at this point of time, it is a normal profit because average cost is equal to average cost is equal to the average revenue. So it's clear that the firm is making a normal profit. Okay, so we are learning about monopolistic competition. First, let's have a look at the definition of this market structure. So this is a market structure where a large number of small firms produce non-homogeneous products where there are no barriers to entry or exit. So we have certain features. There are a large number of buyers and sellers in the market, each which is relatively small and acts independent. There are no barriers to entry and exit. Firms are profit maximizers. Difference between perfect competition and monopolistic competition equals firms produce differentiated and non-homogeneous goods. Now, when you take an example of the spice market, if you take Pakistan as an example, and if you take the spice market, you can see they produce spices, right? Maybe there is a small different variation between the producers, but ultimately at the end, it's a spice. Now let's look at different types of product differentiations. So under monopolistic competition, we are looking into 3 different types of product differentiations, because we already mentioned the difference between perfect competition and monopolistic competition is because there is a difference in the products that they sell or produce, right? So what difference are they? So they can have physical differences, marketing differences, or even differentiations in distribution. So what does physical differentiation mean? This is where a firm makes its product slightly different to its competitor's product. So there's a small change. Now, if you take a chocolate market, chocolate industry, you can see the flavors are a bit different from each other, right? It's not the same. There are differences between a Kit Kat and Mars chocolates. There's a slight difference. So they're making a small difference in the product itself, which is called physical differentiation. Now let's move to marketing. This is where firms use different packagings and promotions to create a different brand image for their product compared to their competitors. Consider the example of Bath and Body Works. What they do, they get the products from the main supplier, but ultimately they wanted their brand to be printed in the packages as Bath and Body Works, and then they sell it, they do the promotions, therefore it becomes marketing differentiation. Distribution differentiation occurs, it is a method of getting the product to customers is different to the competitors. How you're distributing it. Are you distributing it once the customer orders? Are you distributing it within a limited number of days? Do you offer them different payment methods? How do you distribute? So it can be different. The way Pizza Hut distributes its food, I can give you an example of Sri Lanka. Within 1 hour, the standard time, if you do not reach, if the pizza is not delivered to your home within 1 hour, that pizza will be given free of cost for you, because that is a standard that they are maintaining. So this is a distribution differentiation that they are following. So they expect within 1 hour, pizza should be distributed. If not, it's given free of charge to the customers. Now, while looking at monopolistic competition, we are looking into normal profit, loss, and supernormal profit. So we apply the rule for normal profit, MC equals MR, AR equals AC. You can see normal profit, loss, and supernormal profit in all three areas. MC should be equal to MR. That's a must criteria. However, there are changes in AR and AC for normal profit, loss, and supernormal profit. So the only change that you can see in all three scenarios, you can see in the first situation for normal profit, AR is equal to AC. Whereas for loss, you can see your average cost is greater than your average revenue. And when it makes a supernormal profit, you can see that your average revenue is greater than your average cost. So how do we show this in the diagram? So you can see exactly AR equals AC. There is a point where your average cost is equal to your average revenue. So in this situation, a firm doesn't make a loss or an abnormal profit. It makes a normal profit. So this actually occurs in the long run, where many firms are attracted towards this industry. And when a firm is making a loss, exactly the average cost is higher than the average revenue. That's why we are applying the rule AC is greater than AR. As you can see, your average revenue curve is below and your average cost curve is above. And then you apply the rule MC equals MR, draw the dotted line till the end of AC, and you can connect the point EFGB, which makes a loss. However, supernormal profit is where your average revenue is greater than average cost. You can see that your average revenue, AR, is higher than your average cost. So it clearly shows that a firm is making a profit. Apply the rule. MC equals MR, draw the dotted line, connect it till the top of AR, and then you can see it connects at AC as well. But the topmost point is cutting at AR, therefore EFGB is the point where the firm, a monopolistic competitive firm, makes a supernormal or an abnormal profit. Productive efficiency occurs when firms produce at a minimal average cost. So in the short run, if a firm is making a loss or a supernormal profit, it is unlikely to be producing at minimal average cost. So figure 1 and 2 shows this. So let's see figure 1 and 2. So let's see where is figure 1 and 2. Right. So they're talking about figure 1 and 2, which is the abnormal profit, and they're talking about the loss, right? Where AR is greater than AC, which is abnormal profit, and the other one, AC, is greater than AR. Right. So in the short run, if a firm is making a loss or a supernormal profit, it is unlikely to be producing at minimal average cost. Figure 1 and 2 shows this. However, in the long run, a firm in monopolistic competition will not produce an output where average cost is at a minimum either, so the firm will not experience productive efficiency. So what we can conclude here is we are learning about perfectly monopolistic competitive firm. So under monopolistic competition, what they say is it is impossible for a firm to experience productive efficiency in the long run. But in the short run, there is a possibility. So let's break down short run and long run. In short run, yes, they are able to have productive efficiency when they make a loss or when they make a supernormal profit. But in the long run, it is impossible for a firm to make productive efficiency. So this is the conclusion of productive efficiency. Allocative efficiency exists where price equals marginal cost. Earlier, in perfect competition, we went through about AR and MR also. So figure 1, 2, and 3 shows that this is not true for a firm in monopolistic competition in the short run or in the long run. So what we can conclude here is for a monopolistic competitive firm in the short run as well as in the long run, it is impossible for a firm to have allocative efficiency. Figure 5 shows, let's see what figure 5 shows. They're talking about this figure. Monopolistically competitive markets in the long run. A monopolistically competitive firm cannot make supernormal profit in the long run because there is freedom for entry and exit and from the market. Hence, average revenue must equal to average cost. Equilibrium output is at 0A at an output level where MC equals MR. The profit maximizing condition. Equilibrium price is 0B. The firm is not producing at the bottom of its average cost point C. Now you can see when we drew the curve for normal profit, it is not the minimum point which is touching the AR, right? We are taking the minimum point, but it is not equal to AR at that particular point. So that's why they're saying they're not producing the product at its lowest cost of AC, lowest of the AC. And hence, it's not productively efficient because we are talking about productive efficiency. Under productive efficiency, you should produce at the lowest cost. But as per this diagram, you're not producing at the lowest cost. Look at the dotted line. The dotted line is not the line which is touching the lowest point of AC. No, it is allocative efficient because it is not producing at F, where price equals marginal cost. So price is price should be equal to marginal cost. It's not the point it is producing, right? Marginal cost AE is lower than O0B. So let me conclude the points. So the first conclusion is it is not productively efficient. They say it's not productively efficient because it should produce at C, but it is ending up with somewhere else. And then they're saying they're not allocatively efficient. They are not allocatively efficient because it is not producing at F. It's not producing at F. And at this point, your average revenue should be equal to your price. But your average revenue is not equal to the price of 0B. So we can conclude that in the long run, there isn't any evidence for productive and allocative efficiency for a perfectly competitive market. Let's see how to draw an elastic demand curve and inelastic demand curve. To draw an elastic demand curve, make sure to keep your ruler parallel to quantity axis and a small pivot like this. And then you're done with drawing an elastic demand curve. Suppose if you wanted to draw an inelastic demand curve, keep it parallel to your price axis, a little bit of a pivot like this. And then you're done with your inelastic demand curve. Okay, now these are the curves for an oligopoly. As you can see, the MR curve, demand curve, which is equal to AR, and we have a marginal cost curve. So this is going to be similar or if the firm is making a supernormal profit, normal profit, or a loss. Now, we can decide where to keep the average cost. Are we going to keep it above, below, or on top of AR? Since we are going to do supernormal profit, we'll make sure that the average cost is below the purple curve, which is the AR curve. And the MC should cut the lowest point of AC. And the rule is marginal cost equals marginal revenue. So identify that point where the red curve cuts the green curve, and then draw the dotted lines all the way till top of AR or the D curve. Now you can find the point where MR equals AC. I'm marking it A. And I'm marking another point B where the dotted line touches AR curve. And then identify the area of supernormal profit. So the supernormal profit area would be CBAF. This is the MR curve, demand curve, and MC curve for oligopoly. And now we are going to work for normal profit. So the rules for normal profit is AC equals AR and MR equals MC. Now I'm going to make sure that my AC curve is tangent to AR curve. Now the next rule is to identify the point where MC equals MR. I'm drawing the dotted lines and identifying the point where all these connects together. The dotted line equals AC equals AR. Now this is the point where OB, and this is the point where the firm is making a normal profit. So when it's a normal profit, AC is equal to AR. Now we are going to find out how the graphs will reflect if an oligopoly firm makes a loss. Ensure to remember the rules. Here, AC is greater than AR, MR is equal to MC. So I'm going to place my AC curve above AR to ensure that the firm is making a loss. Now, Identify the point where MC equals MR and draw the dotted lines. Now, make sure you're going to draw the parallel lines towards the quantity axis where the dotted line meets average cost and average revenue. So I'm going to identify those points. So you can see the marginal cost is higher than the average revenue over here. So the difference between these two areas will be considered as the loss for an oligopoly firm. So area A, B, E, F represents where an oligopoly makes a loss.